radiopsychic, Dr. Linda Salvin, offering up her always fascinating blend of psychic psychology, clairvoyant insights, and expert guests and alternative healing methods. So pull up a chair and get ready for a visit with the one and only Dr. Linda. And now, live from Los Angeles, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Linda Salvin.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It's another Psychic Solutions podcast. I hope you're having a nice day or evening, whatever time it is that you're listening to this or viewing it on YouTube or downloading on 100 platforms out there. I have a wonderful guest today. His name is Izzy Varella. Wait till you hear this one. His mother was a psychic medium, so he grew up around all this woo-woo stuff. And we're going to hear his story about his mom and some of the stories she told him or he witnessed. Plus, you'll find out more about Izzy. If you're just new to the show, I'm a psychic healer and a medium. I have a PhD in metaphysics and a master's in public health epidemiology, the big term these days with the pandemic. And I've been doing this show for about 30 years. So I am going to bring on Izzy. I welcome phone calls. If you want to call in, the line will show at 561-623 9421. Sometimes we'll get phone calls and you can ask questions rather than just text in your message. So Rebel will take your call at 561-623-9421 should you decide to call. But let's meet Izzy now and wait to hear this story. Hello, Izzy. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Linda. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. So you're in Massachusetts and I'm in Los Angeles, and here we are meeting online. And I met Izzy at a conference about a month ago when I was in New York. And I had a little table that I didn't really stay at that I was supposed to do psychic readings, but I got so excited about the event, I just stayed in the event. And he goes, my mom was a medium. I'm like, oh my God. And I wanted to talk, but I couldn't because I was so distracted. So I said, I'll just bring him on the show. So without all the chaos and the people and the noise, say hello, introduce yourself. He's a Virgo. He's a salesperson, deals with travel, but his mom was a psychic on top of it. Let's hear her.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I much appreciate it. My name is Izzy Varella. I work for a company called Colette, and we are a travel company. And I met Linda at a conference for radio and talk show presenters. And at that point in time, when I talked to her for a moment, I had to ask her, has she had any history with loved ones connecting with you via television or any type of electronic medium of any kind? Because most recently, my mother passed away. And when she had her final stroke, I removed the TV that was in her assisted living facility and I put it in my room. And a few days after that, she passed away. And as soon as she passed away, the TV started turning on all by itself at different times of the day. Mm-hmm. Not just my TV, but my aunt's TV, my cousin's TV. And so one of her friends, who was a medium as well, said something about, your mom was a very powerful medium, and I believe one day she's going to pierce the veil. And I said, what's piercing the veil?
Yeah, that's a term that we use. Go ahead.
And she said, well, did you see Ghost? And I said, yeah. Did you see the point where Patrick Swayze met the gentleman in the subway, and he was showing them how to touch something? That's like piercing the veil. But it takes a lot of energy and a lot of time.
For the listener, what that means, there's a spiritual curtain. Let's call it a curtain. Some people are born with the veil, which means it's an extra piece of skin over their head or their forehead. And they're known to be more on a higher frequency or psychic frequency. And then in life, if you're piercing the veil, you're going to have extrasensory activity. You're going to have activity like with the TV, the lights, the computers that go beyond our physical reality. But there's the paranormal activity taking place and interviewing. So it's coming through that fourth dimension. That's what it means. Go on.
So after I experienced the TVs turning on and off, I try to figure out what was the correlation, what was the cause and effect. Was it the company that I have, or was it someone I was talking to on the phone? What was the opportunity in those moments? And I'm not trying to make sense of it anymore. I just accept it as it is. But most recently, that same TV that I had was only 2.5 years old. On Mother's Day, I turned it on, and I rarely use it. It's in my bedroom, and it burnt out. It just stopped working. So I took it down, and I grabbed my mother's old TV that she had in her house, and I put that in its place. And within 24 hours, and this one is a much older TV that has no voice activation of any kind, it started coming on by itself.
Do you now believe it was your mother playing?
I do, but I also believe there's cause and effect. Like there's something about it when she chooses to do it. But
yeah, it's not a constant. Yeah, but it's not about timing of when. It's the paranormal activity of spirit proving they're alive and around us. Okay, this is July 3rd of 2024. When did you lose your mom?
It was May 7th. March 7th, 2022.
Okay, so she's gone 2 years. My mom's gone 15 years. I look for butterflies. I look for symbols. Sometimes there's activity. Sometimes I feel a chill. Sometimes I smell a cigarette. Sometimes I smell a perfume. It's not always the electronics, but a lot of people do experience the electrical phenomena of the TVs, the lights, the computers, flashing lights, and that's the spirit from the other side trying to say, hi, I love you, I'm here. Now I'm going to promote a book, which I do often, because a girl who I've known since 1995, she came to me for help one time. She had an autistic child, and his name was Mikey. You can get the book called The Return of Mikey, and it explains the same thing you're talking about, because Mikey committed suicide in 2008 with a gun at a Walmart in Oklahoma, I believe. And then Diane Bucci, who came to me, wanted me to channel him, and she had documented 20 years of raising this child before autism was known to the public. And she documented all of the things that happened. One of the chapters in the book talks about the flashing lights, the computers, and everything you're talking about, Izzy, that we knew. They knew Mikey was around when these events would take place. It's not uncommon. But she documented my channeling session. It's in a whole chapter. She documented all of his antics and his humor and the things that he said would happen after he died. He knew he was going to die. He knew he was here for a short time. But what you've experienced, other people experience, so you're not alone. But I think you would love that book, and you put that together with your mom, and you'll be on another level altogether. So you got the TV thing. You are more cognitive than you are spiritual. You've got the spiritual energy. Yeah. You're still kind of analyzing why it happened. Did it really be spiritual? One of the things you said to me at that table when we first met, you want to know if I knew about Lilydale, which I did. I've never been, but I know that that's a whole community of psychics and mediums that live in a community. And I mean, I can only imagine what kind of energy goes on there. Was your mom a resident of that as well, or a participant?
She was a participant. She went there and got her degree. She went there for 3 years and graduated. And, that led her to many opportunities, to different seminars, speaking opportunities, things of that nature. But it just introduced her to a larger network, not just in central New York, but worldwide, where she would go to Thailand, where she would go to Brazil, and she would travel and find her interest. And the thing is, she was a medical health professional for over 40 years, highly decorated. The staff that took care of Castro in its last 4 years of his life was trained by my mother.
Wow.
She got awards.
That's quite a feat. That's quite a deal.
Both in the UN, and there are 2 universities in Mexico that have scholarships in her name.
What's your mom's name?
Leocadia Varella. Leocadia Duarte Varella.
You'll have to type it out for me. All right.
I'll send it to you later. And the fact is, she was very well known. I mean, she was published 27 times as an LPN. And I could go on and on about her accolades. But when she retired from medicine, she put the same emphasis and focus that she did in the medical profession. And she was a speed reader. So she could absorb a lot of information. And then later
on,
She did hypnotism for folks. She did trans lives, regression. Is that the correct term?
Well, yeah, you're going into past lives, so it's transgression.
Yeah. But whenever she came back from any seminar, she knew she always had an audience of one.
You.
So, yeah. So,
yeah.
so I would get bombarded with many different ideas and concepts. And there was.
Did she take you through your past lives? Did she take you down the tube?
No, we made an agreement not to do that. We made an agreement that was too private,
personal?
At least personal for ourselves. But with that being said, there was other teachings that she had shown me that I carry on to this day, and there are other things that I look at after her passing, during her time, because she was going through dementia.
Mm-hmm.
She was, and I was wondering, how does the medium operate within the vessel that has dementia?
It has nothing to do with the brain. It doesn't have to do with the brain. It's the energy. As a medium, I separate from my head, and there's an energy that comes in on the right side of my head, and it funnels. And I understand dementia. My dad has dementia. He's turning 95. It's a horrible, as they call the long goodbye. It's the long goodbye because they slowly disappear. But the gift is still there. And what's interesting, there's a lot of people in the medical world that end up in the healing or holistic or the psychic services and psychic sciences and esoteric, because my background's medicine. And I opened up as a psychic in a plane crash. Everybody has something that opened it up. Your mom always had the gift. You've got the gift, but I don't think you're ready to leave your world and become a practitioner in that. You're more comfortable doing what you're doing. That doesn't mean you won't segue in a couple of years. I think 3-4 years from now, you'll open up on that different level where you're going to embrace both the physical and the spiritual. You're kind of straddling right now. You always have. And there's a part of you that you're fascinated by it. You've been around it all your life. And yet there's a part that goes, yeah, but you're still analyzing it. And that's okay too, because the skeptic is what I thrive on. It's like, how does this work? Where does it come from? How old was your mother when she passed away, Izzy?
She was 83.
Okay.
And but the aspects that she had taught me, you wonder, how does that work? And thank you for your explanation. And I believe in everything. I believe in everything you just said, that you can't retain being the medium and have dementia at the same time.
They're separate.
And I'm going to explain why. Because as she was having her failure with memory, she would always ask, and I had to move her from Syracuse, New York to Rhode Island, because she lived in Syracuse. And I live here in the Rhode Island, Massachusetts border. So during COVID, when she had dementia, after there was a vaccine, I had to relocate her, which is another story unto itself. But once she was here, she would always have the same questions for me. She would say, how are my books? Where are my books? Because she had like a library. So your books are fine.
Wow.
She'd be like, how are my sisters? I'm like, your sisters are fine. How's Sal and Gina? Those are his neighbors. I said, they're fine. And then she would ask about a few other relatives, but she would never, and this was every day I ever saw her, this is what happened. Now, I left work because of COVID and because I had to take care of my mother. So going back to work was the last thing on my mind. And the company was moving on, and it was uploading people. And I didn't know if I was going back. And she would say, have you talked to Jim Edwards? And I'm like, no, Jim Edwards is a good friend of mine and kind of became my boss at Colette. And I was working with him exclusively for quite some time. So now I'm not working for him, and they're unloading people. I'm getting older. I don't know if I'm going to get the gig back, whatever. And she goes, yeah, have you talked to Jim Edwards? I said, yeah, I talk to Jim Edwards all the time. And that conversation happened for another year and a half, where she would always end it. Have you talked to Jim Edwards?
So fast forward, you got your job back?
I got my job back.
Your mom was trying to tell you something.
But it was in like 6-7 months ago. And I'd gone through a series of interviews and nothing had panned out.
Wasn't supposed to.
And now I'm in a position where I'm a global accounts manager and I'm doing things for the Australian media that can help out nonprofits. And I've been following that before COVID. I've been watching all Australian news, getting absorbed into it.
How exciting is that?
But the other thing I would say that my mother also had a habit of doing, I used to call it psychic Tourette's. She would say something very quickly.
Yeah, they fell down.
On top of her head.
There you go.
And then it would happen like 2 or 3 months later or a few weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
And one of her things that she always did that a lot of my friends relied on was she got 16 Super Bowl. She got out of 17 Super Bowl, she got 16 right.
Wow. Like what?
The only
you remember them?
The only one she got wrong was the one when Philadelphia beat the Patriots. And she goes, I knew the score. I just didn't want to hurt you.
That's funny. So every year she'd write it down in advance as to who was going to win Super Bowl, or she just knew the day of the game?
I would just call her up and she'd say, I know you're calling me. And what I believed is she saw headlines. Because she would say, is there a white quarterback and there's a black quarterback? I said, yeah, yeah. She goes, well, I see the white quarterback holding the trophy. Is there a bird on the helmet? Yeah, there's a bird on the helmet. Oh, that's the Ravens. But this is the last one I'll say about the story. This is the Falcons.
It's fascinating.
The Falcons against the Patriots. Okay. And I said, Mom, who's going to win? She goes, I knew you were going to ask me. Because I don't know anything about football. Because she's from a country called the Cape Verde Islands. So she knows nothing about American football. And she's like, I don't understand the game. Very, very close game. 2.5 scores. I says, Mom, there's no such thing as 2.5. Because look, I don't know the game. 2.5 scores, very close game. So a lot of my friends have relied on my mom's wisdom because they placed bets. I never did. So around the in the third quarter, it was 28-3. And my phone is blowing up. My friends are calling me like, Lee doesn't got it this year. Lee is wrong. Lee's wrong. Well, we all know the Patriots won the game at the last minute. And they won it by scoring 2-point conversions. That was my mother's explanation of 2.5
I'm
scores.
just getting chills. So she's here. When we get chills, it's confirmation of spirit. It's goosebumps. Go on.
When I came into work, I had no voice because once they scored, I screamed, my mother's never wrong. My mother's never wrong.
I love that. I love that. You should write a book about your mom and incorporate all of her work from your perspective as the son living with all this. You have that in you, and I'm sure you've been asked or you've thought about it.
I actually have because, and I'll send you a photograph later. When she passed away and we had the reception, I brought in all her books and I put them in the restaurant in this function room. And the function in the restaurant, credit to themselves, put a stack of bags on a holder, and it was like going to a bookstore. So we had the photographs of my mom and the PowerPoint presentation and the music, but people could go and grab a book, put it in the bag, and then go home. Now, no one knows when they're going to go away and doesn't go through all their belongings. But my mother made bookmarkers out of everything. So there are photographs. There are flight tickets with quotes on them. So these books are highlighted, or they have certain things, family photographs or friends of theirs. So everyone who got a book was like a Cracker Jacks box. They got a little something inside. So I thought if I ever wanted to tell a story, I would tell it from that point of view, because I think that in itself would lend itself to creativity and explaining how those books helped others after her passing.
And they go on and on and on. It'll be there forever. She's left her mark on the planet. I think it's wonderful. She'll be back. You know she'll be back. You'll be back. You guys were together in past lives, which is why she didn't want to go through the regressions for you to see what your connection was in past lives. I can see at least 6 of them that you two had been together many, many times in lifetimes, not just here in the States, but other countries and other environments in different decades and different millennium. You guys have been around a long time. You'll be back. She'll be back. But did she ever predict things for you with your social life, your career, or anything personally that stands out? Like, oh, my mom said that, and now I'm doing, or I met so and so. Did anything like that ever happen?
Well,
Besides football.
Besides also getting my job back at Colette, I would say there were other areas that she would guide or explain its path. And one of them was a project that I did at Colette. Now, I was in a business development department. So my job was basically to go out and find business from a cubicle. But there was this one opportunity that I had brokered with CBS and another vice president, and it also included Joan London.
Wow. Okay.
So it was just kind of an odd certain circumstances where I was getting the call to navigate this. Our senior management was all in Australia at the time. And this opportunity to meet Joan London seemed to be one of those rare moments that you got to take. So we took advantage of it. And as I started working on it, my mother, I called her up and she explained the entire thing that I should do. And what it ended up being was the largest expense at that time from an advertising point of view that the company had ever invested in. And I ended up writing it in less than 48 hours.
Wow. Okay. Because you took the direction. She saw it, so she told you how to play it, and you sealed the deal.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful. Yeah, sometimes being a psychic, we kind of cheat, because what I say to people, I'm just the flashlight on the path. It's like playing pin the tail on the donkey without the blindfold. You know, I can see it before they do, and I can tell you, oh, here's a boulder. No, don't go that way. No, don't go this way. Yes, open that door. No, break up with him or her or whatever. Oh, you're going to marry this. No, you're not. No, blah, blah. That's what we do. We're light. We see the light. But everybody has their own form of clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, and mediumship is different than the clairvoyance, but it comes in from a higher level, and then you integrate it all with the different sides of sight, sound, and feeling. You grew up in a very unique environment. What about your dad? Was he around, or?
Well,
It doesn't feel like he was there, but go on.
Situation
if it's too much for you, you don't have to answer.
No, it's kind of, I'm trying to figure out the right way to explain it. My mother came from a country called the Cape Verde Islands.
Where is that?
It's off the west coast of Africa. Right now, between June and October, a lot of Cape Verdeans get a little giddy because that's when all the hurricanes begin. And the hurricanes form right below the Cape Verde Islands. So that's when we get a shout out for our small little country. It's like Brazil. It's a mixture of both Portuguese and African. It was, think of a group of islands about the size of Hawaii off the west coast of Africa, used as a port for slavery, where the Portuguese would go to the continent, put them on the island, and export them throughout the world. My grandmother used to once say, who was also a medium, that she would say, you see how all these storms, all these hurricanes are going? I said, yes. She goes, those are the trade winds for all the slave ships. That was.
Whoa. Oh my God. Oh, oh, wow. That's an interesting way of looking at it.
But my mother came from a very wealthy family, and her father had 19 children.
Holy cow.
It's a kind of a long story to explain.
I would think so. What, the same woman? With the same woman?
No.
I didn't think so. That one a year for 19 years would be a lot of children.
Let me just get through this real quickly, otherwise it would be. So he commanded a huge wealth in this small country that was still under Portuguese rule. And he was almost like the mayor. But even though he had all this wealth, he knew that the best opportunity was for his children to be in America. So he took his brightest and smartest child and put together an arranged marriage with an American who had lived in Cape Verde Islands when he was an orphan at 2 years of age, my father. So my mother had an arranged marriage, and I have gone to funerals, I've gone to weddings, I've gone to other functions as a child. And people will come up to me and say, I could tell you where I was standing when your mother got married. It was like Princess Diana was getting married. The whole town turned out. But my father wasn't in the photograph. He wasn't the groom. It was a gentleman who was in the Navy, who was like 6'2", light skin. My father was 5'5" in my complexion. So those are the photographs that I saw. So
why did they do that?
My grandfather wanted his brightest child to become like an anchor for his other children.
But why wasn't he in the photograph? I mean, why was your dad not in the picture?
Once again,
I mean, I understand what he wanted to develop a whole new lineage in the States.
Once again, I could go on and on about this.
That's a whole nother show.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to get to the meat and potatoes of this. So she came from a country where spirituality was strong. And my father was a tough guy. He stowed away on a Greek boat going back to the United States and was able to survive by being a cook on the boat. Then came to the United States. And when he was here after like maybe 5 or 6 years, he met my grandfather on a business trip. And that's where my grandfather showed him the picture of my mother. Think of Holly Berry. Okay. That's my mom. I'll show you photographs. And you'll be like, yeah, that's Holly Berry. So he showed a picture of someone like that to my father. And but what ended up happening was within 4 years, and after one child had passed away, my mother found a way to divorce my father and then worked as a maid or a cleaning woman at Rhode Island Hospital, got caught reading books when she was supposed to be cleaning. A nurse took pity on the situation and made her the first nursing student at Rhode Island Nursing College to have a child and to graduate.
Wow, the history with your mother, my God. Do you ever feel like you live in her limelight? Like compete? Does it ever bother you, Izzy? She's got this fame and fortune and gift, and you're kind of like,
she's a supernova. I'm not trying to be, I mean, supernovas come by once in a while.
Yeah, huge big star. I get it.
You know, you're okay with it. And everyone else, I mean, like, she came from a family of 19. Now imagine all of them having the same feeling about her being a supernova. It's like, you know, her older brothers, her younger sisters, whoever. She was a shining star. But beyond that, my biological father moved away, and I didn't see him until I was 20.
Wow.
And that was based on my mother's command. She never wanted to see him again, and he was always the boogeyman when I was a kid. You act up, I'm going to send you to your dad. And then when I was 20 years old, I got a phone call, or actually I got a letter, and I contacted my mom, and she said, okay, you should go see him, but this is what's going to take place.
So he invited to get together with you.
Yeah.
He wanted to know you.
Yeah. But you asked me, what advice did my mother ever give me that played out? Here's what happened. She said, all right, go down to Miami, go visit him, but this is what's going to take place. He's going to show you a bunch of baby pictures. He's going to show you bank accounts with your name in it because you're a junior. And then he's going to ask you for something. And I said, okay, Mom. So a few months goes by. I go down to Florida. I visit my stepfather, my biological father. And it was during a riot, actually, they had in Miami for an officer shooting an unarmed black child on a moped. And if you weren't black, you couldn't get into his neighborhood. So we got flagged in. We went in. And we sat down and hung out for a few days, and that's exactly what happened. He showed me a bunch of baby pictures. He showed me some bank accounts. And then he asked me for a bone marrow transplant.
Oh my God, he was sick. He was dying.
Yeah.
So he wanted to pay you to save him.
He wanted to show me what was on the other side, you know. And
so you could inherit all this money if you gave him a part of you. What happened? Did you go with the surgery?
Well, I answered the question first. So I talked to my mom first, you know, her being a healthcare professional. And she goes, I want you to really think about this. She goes, I don't think you understand how much pain you're going to be in. You're going to be in some serious pain. But it's your decision. And I said, okay. So I thought about it and I decided yes. And then I contacted my biological father, and he then told me, don't worry about it. It's too late. So I didn't know if it was a test or if that was legit, but it never took place.
Did you inherit, or was it like waving a carrot in front of a horse?
No, he was legit. I mean, I have a half brother. It wasn't like crazy money. He was a cook. He was a cook at a racetrack, but he saved his pennies. He was a decent guy in that area. Very funny guy. We were very much alike in certain ways. I'm a very good cook. If you can see behind me, see I got
can
a nice
see your kitchen here. Yeah.
So people who've seen my father cook and seen me cook say we're this.
You've inherited that gift, and so you inherited from both. We're all, each of our parents were half and half of whatever we inherited genetically and characters and characteristics and gifts. Yeah. My goodness, what a story! So, how does all this make you now today? You're in your 60s. You're moving forward. You've got a hell of a career, and that little camera keeps sliding down. What's the goal? Where are you headed? I mean, this thing with Australia, so your connection in Australia, do you go down there a lot to do work?
I'm going to go for the very first time. And the thing is, when I was 7 years old, I had a next door neighbor named Ian Tanner. We were good friends for like 2 summers, and then his father moved from Brown University back to Sydney. So I never saw him again. So I always became fascinated with Australia and its likes. So right now, the opportunity is to go to Australia, work with media relationships, break new ground within that. But the other opportunities that came about was a good friend of mine. I used to be in the nightclub business prior to being in sales or marketing.
That's a switch. I'd love to hear that kind of story.
So I was a DJ and I was an event planner. I used to throw large black tie parties in mansions in Newport, ski resorts, things of that nature. And while doing it, I worked for a few good nightclubs in Newport, and one of them was called the Clark Cookhouse. It's owned by a gentleman named David Ray. And David Ray's kind of like Ralph Lauren. Just think of, he's like a brand.
I've been to Newport. I know how elegant it is. I've been there. It's gorgeous. Go on.
So, and David Ray's.
Isn't that where Jacqueline Kennedy's family have the compound from the Onassis?
No, that's in Cape Cod. That's in Cape Cod.
No, there's something in Newport. Are you talking Newport, Rhode Island?
You talk about Jacqueline Kennedy?
Yeah,
there's a church there. Yeah, it's right behind my house where I got a place there. She has an area as well. But anyway, I'm sorry. We were at.
You were talking about being a DJ and talking about the cookhouse, and you were talking about.
I was working with this gentleman named David Ray. He's kind of his contemporaries are like Ted Turner. It's a place where they had the America's Cup for many years. It's an America's Cup chapter. So on the 3rd floor is a black tie kind of club only, kind of semi-private. And that's where I DJ now on the weekends, only on Saturdays. And what took place was a good friend of mine was a doorman, and he passed away during COVID.
Oh, sorry.
So when the restaurant and it's reopened, I went there one night, a little tipsy, talking to the general manager that they should reopen their downstairs discotheque I used to work at 35 plus years ago. The next morning I wake up, I get a text from this gentleman saying, when can you start? I hadn't DJ'd in 20 years. Now I bought her a controller, which is the new things all these kids are using these days, but I never broke it out of the box. So I had to break it out of the box and work in this place. And I've been loving it. I enjoy it. I do it not so much for the money, but for the camaraderie with the general manager.
You're around the prestigious people. You're with the high level. I mean, you can't get any higher than the elite that you're with. I get it.
So one night I came home and I just saw this Buddha that I had, and next to a disco ball, and I am now the disco Buddha.
I love that. I love that. What kind of music do you play? Do you play 70s all the way through 2020s? What, just a whole gamut of dance music?
I play a mix, and David Ray is kind of like the executive producer. They have their own style. Between 11 o'clock and 11:30, it's like Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and any other type of like something from the 60s or
so they just go decade and bring in all the top artists.
And then you go in at the bottom of like around 11:30, a little bit of Motown, and then you segue into something that's a little bit, you might call it yacht rock.
Yep.
And then it goes into what's ever really happening, and a little bit of techno, a little bit of disco.
I love techno.
And every night ends with God Bless America as a crescendo, so that everyone does kind of a sing-along at the end of the night. It's really a unique experience that I got brought into. And I believe that my friend who passed away, Parrish, led me in there.
Absolutely. One door leads to another. Spirit will guide you when you least expect it, especially if you learn how to watch the signs of the universe, offering an olive branch or opening a door. I had a client this morning from, I think, Minnesota, and she had no clue about the universal signs. Like here, she's still so stuck in a relationship she's been out of for 2 years, thinking this person's coming back. I said, no, it's over. Yeah, but I said, no, I mean, you're with this person 10 years, but after 2 years, you were starting to go into these problems. What happened at 4 and 6? She told me. I said, this is not your soul person. But she doesn't want to see the opportunities in front of her. And I said, but this is going to happen. That's going to happen. Let go. I said, you're about 3 years away from finding your person. 3 years, I'm already 65. I said, and where are you going? Life isn't on a schedule, as we've learned since we grew up. You can't just wake up and get there. It kind of like has a few ups and downs in life. And yet this girl is adamant that I am wrong. And I said, well, in 3 years, let me know what happens, because I know what she's stuck at. You are so open, and you're lucky that you're blessed. You're really blessed, Izzy, that you have the background you did, you had the guidance that you did, you have the understanding, education, and the fortunate environments that you've been exposed to all through your life. I mean, you've got a lot to offer. The music really helps to balance out the whole cognitive part of you, which is all sales, but the travel and your history of the family. My God, you got so much to talk about. Every aspect of you is another book, another chapter, another show. But what's your true passion? What's the true passion? Is it music, or is it sales? Is it being with people? Is it spiritual?
My true passion is I would say music and food. There's a combination, and travel is so close as well. But I would say my true passion is event planning. I love putting together events, whether it be a barbecue or whether it be an event for 2,000.
You're a party boy. You're just a party boy. You're a party boy.
I enjoy the details of putting together things that haven't been done before.
You're a producer.
Yeah. And I'll just say one more thing. Over my right shoulder, you're going to see a beer tap.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to tell you about this house real quickly. When I was looking for a home, I started like in August. I found this house in January. This was 2009. So what took place was, after my very first house in August, I started obsessing about beer taps. I don't know why. I was going back to school. I was getting my degree. I made a pledge to my stepfather to move back from Atlanta and get my degree and not work in the nightclub business anymore. So as I'm doing all that, I'm just Googling beer taps. So now I came very close to getting a home like in around December, but it fell through. I came across this house I'm sitting in January, and everything you see behind me, all the appliances were stripped. Everything from the outdoor lighting, garage door opener, everything in this house, condensers outside for the air conditioners, gone. Everything was gone except that beer tap.
You were led to this house. It's like, is it odd or is it God? I mean, man, everything's got a purpose for you. Everything's kind of like one step ahead of you. Hi. I'm here every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Thank you very much. Just keep listening. The is it odd? Is it God? What's coming first? You know, you're led to things. You follow your spirit, and that's what I try to help people understand, that there is something guiding all of this. I believe in fate. I believe that we have free will, but I also know that there's a will of the universe that sometimes we go against, and things always don't go in the way we hope. But then if we start to follow the flow, things open up. So if you've gotten into beer taps, are you a big beer drinker, or did you just become more of a hobby now? Or it was more of your symbol? It was like a totem for you.
It was the only thing that was left in the house. It was the only thing that was not removed. Now, it's not just a beer tap. It's a kegerator. So there's a refrigerator underneath that. There's a complete
God.
that was not removed.
It was a chef's kitchen for you. It made it for you. So you put beer in, or now you're going to tell me make your own beer?
No. No, it's got Blue Moon in there. Shameless plug. Yeah.
Okay. How exciting! Do you have any animals?
No, I have some koi fish.
Okay.
But I did have for about 8 years. I had an alley cat that I took care of that everyone thought was my cat. Made him a little kind of dog house that he slept on, like he was Snoopy. And I'm a big Hemingway fan. And this cat was what you call the lucky cat. It had an extra thumb.
Oh, okay.
And if you've ever been to Hemingway's home in Key West,
no, that's not.
The place is flooded with those kinds of cats.
Oh, okay.
So his name was Wally, and he was my cat for a long time.
Wally. Cats are special, and they're very intuitive, and they're great, especially if you're sick. They're right there to help you heal. They're very psychic. I've had 5 cats through the years, and I was just talking to my assistant before the show about an alley cat, or a feral, that I used to feed, called Lucy, that used to live in the bushes of my other house. And I'd say, Lucy, and it'd be way up on the roof or in the bush, and I'd hear this meow, and then it'd come and run, and I'd feed it, and then it'd go back into the bushes. But you know, dogs, cats, animals, I think, are drawn to your energy, especially spiritual people draw in animal behaviors and animal love. You've got all that. I mean, you've got so many stories to show, and it's just, what are you going to do with it? I think you're going to publish your own book. I do. And I think within 3 years, you're going to have your own book where you're going to have, or maybe a trilogy between your mom, your history, and you, and it all comes together. I think it's fascinating. Are you going to give up the Colette and eventually have your own disco or music career?
No, I think I'm going to work with Colette for a good period of time, because it allows me to see the world, and I'm working with really good people. So I don't want to leave this team at any time soon. But I do look on things afterwards. And I think music will be a part of it. I have like this quest to where I want to DJ in different parts of the world. And so when I go to Australia, I'll bring my little controller with me, and hopefully I'll be able to spin tunes at a few clubs or a few special events out there. And with my travels, I'll try to do that as well, to see the world.
You're like a Renaissance man. You can do everything anywhere, and you just show up. People love you. Doors open. Things fall in your lap. You're really blessed. Your mom's not the only Nova.
I don't know about that, but you know,
no, you're not giving yourself. No. I'm the psychic here, not you.
Okay.
That's my job. Okay. No, you've got more going on than you give yourself credit for, Izzy. As far as your gift and your talents and your intellect and your disposition and your eloquence, and you can't live without the finer things in life. You're not going to be comfortable unless you have it all, and you will always have it all. You've deserved it. You've earned it. But the thing is, you've got a huge heart. You give back to a lot of people out there. People love you. And I don't know, I'm sure you cook up dinner parties and have your own events at your house versus what you're doing out there for the public. But your fulfillment and this energy, I can see back in the 1700s where you really started as a Renaissance person in Europe. It wasn't just Africa, but I think it's Italy, Spain, maybe Portugal, that whole western part. You have all that past life energy, and you have all that talent from the centuries that you have lived over and over again. And this is the lifetime where it all comes together, and you are really blessed. I mean, you've got another 20, 30 years ahead of you, so who knows what's going to manifest with that. But you're fascinating. And to grow up with all of this is unique, because not everybody has a psychic for a mom or an aunt or a grandmother or whatever. And then
I want to say one last thing about my mom.
Yeah, we have 4 minutes. We have to wrap up.
Okay. You asked me if she gave me any guidance or any predictions. So one time she was having some back surgery, and she was always prepared, like where the will is, where the information is, contact this person if anything goes wrong. I said, Mom, you know so many people. You've traveled all over the world. When you pass away, how am I going to handle it? How am I going to take care of this? She says, well, that's why I gave birth to an event planner.
You fell right into the role, dude. You fell right into the role. There's no accidents. She's right.
At the end of the day, her service was signed off by the bishop here in Rhode Island, because I put 2 large video projectors in the church and was able to transcribe it in 3 languages, and it broadcast to 27 different countries.
Holy cow.
And her brother in prison got to watch her service.
As I said, Izzy, you're a producer, and I have to close the show now. This has been fascinating. You've got a spiritual touch where it's like everything you touch turns to gold and diamonds, and you're very fortunate. Keep it up. I'll see you backstage. Don't go away. This is Dr. Linda Salvin. We've been talking to Izzy Varella, whose mother was a medium, and we talked about his own experiences growing up, his family, his talents, his gifts and sales, international travel, cooking, music, all of it. That's Izzy. Thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you after the show. And I'm going to say goodbye, everybody. This is Dr. Linda Salvin. I'll be back. I am a PhD. I'm not a medical doctor, for your own information. I'll be back tomorrow with another guest. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Tomorrow actually is the 4th of July. If you're listening live, I have Tom Palladino and the Scalar Light Energy of Healing. It's going to replay tomorrow, which I know you will love. And I'll see you next week. So have a wonderful, safe holiday. We'll talk soon. This is Linda Salvin, Psychic Solutions Podcast. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed Dr. Linda Salvin's Psychic Solutions Podcast. You can reach Dr. Linda at 888-509-1077 or at lindasalvin.com. Need a breakthrough of your own? Ready for answers or insights nobody else has? Reserve your own one-on-one in-person chat. Dr. Linda isn't just for other people. Dr. Linda gets results for you. And it's easy. Contact details are on screen now. Just click on lindasalvin.com or call toll-free 888-509-1077. That's lindasalvin.com or toll-free at 888-509-1077.